The topic is called the modern lifestyle and 21st century movements. As we approach 8 billion people on the planet, as of today, we're about 7.1. We're expected to hit 8 billion in 2024. We're seeing successful international development efforts too. But at the same time, people see the U.S. Consumption patterns as the culture, the type of lifestyle to emulate. And we know that in the U.S., it's not necessarily a super success story. We've got 40% of our waterways that are undrinkable. We've got less than 4% of our forests that are still there, and but only 5% of the world's population that consumes 30% of the world's resources. So if everyone did that, we would hit 3 to 5 planets worth of resource consumption, and we know that's not sustainable. And so the conversation today is saying, we don't think that we should all wear the Star Trek matching uniforms and knee-high boots, but we do need to be a little more intentional in how we're living our lives.
I don't think it's a conversation that everybody wants to be involved in, partly because, for example, amongst recent college graduates in the United States, we have 50% unemployment. Here in the United States, 27% of our citizens at any one time could be diagnosed with major depression or anxiety disorder. So the question is not just, are we consuming too many of the world's resources? The question is, are we using our resources in a way that actually provide for human health, happiness, and security? And I would say the answer to that question is no. That actually, you mentioned that the developing world is looking to the United States for how we live. And I would argue in some ways how we live kind of sucks. So many of us aren't spending time with our family and friends. A lot of us are working in jobs that we don't believe in, for companies that we don't believe in, so we have a meaning deficit as well as a financial deficit. So the real question, I would argue, is not just about how do we use fewer resources, but actually how do we want to live? How do we want to live in a way that makes us happy and makes our fellow human beings happy in a world with limited resources? For example, one thing that I put down was the television. And as a result of putting down the television, I ended up spending a lot more time with my little girl. And so what started to happen is, instead of this idea that I should want less, I realized that really what was important was that I should want differently. It's not more stuff we necessarily need in the developed world anyway, and not more money that we necessarily need, but in some ways more time, more quality relationships, a greater sense of security, like that we can have healthcare, that we will be taken care of. And these things, which actually contribute to human happiness, of course, don't use as many resources. So